lameness a lot and general medicine. This is Paul. He's helping me today, one of our techs. And this is Cal. He's our blood donor. So we do take care of their feet while they're here. This horse has not been trimmed in 10 weeks on purpose. So you guys could see what we're looking at when we're evaluating these horses. So we got everyone here. All right, excellent. So what we're gonna look at, balance of the foot. It's different aspects we're gonna be looking at. Number one, there's two ways of balancing a foot. One being in static or no motion, just when you pick up the leg and look at the hoof itself, and when the horse is actually moving. So there's two types of balance. I aim usually to have a horse that lands flat on its foot, because a lot of injuries will happen if they're landing on one side of the hoof versus the other side of the hoof. So again, these are just general rules. There's a lot of exceptions, but just in general, we're going to be talking today about those things. So we're going to start with the active. We're going to look at him walk, and I want you folks to look, and sometimes I kneel down to look, to see how that, we're going to focus on the front feet first, how the front feet are landing. Are they landing flat? Are they landing on the side, on one side or the other side, as they're coming towards us? Because that's going to make a huge difference. Depending on the conformation, you may have a horse that will land flat, but it's actually, when you pick up the leg, the hoof is crooked, and that's based on bony structure and things like that. So we have to take all those things into consideration when we're actually balancing the hoof of the horse. The other thing I will say, these 20-30 minutes we're going to spend here will not make you a farrier. Don't argue with your farrier, okay? I'm going to show you some cool tools that we use sometimes. Don't pull them out with your farrier there. You're going to piss him or her off. Okay? They're not going to be happy with you. So don't argue with them. They do this every day. However, if you see something, then bring it to us, and then we can help you. Paul, let's walk him down and then bring him straight back. All right, I want everyone to focus when Scout is coming back, how he's landing when he's walking, okay? And we'll do it a couple of times so we all know what we're looking at. If you want to focus on one foot at a time, that's perfect. Let's focus on the left front, the side where Paul is. All right, one more time, Paul.
I see why he's a blood donor.
It used to be an endurance horse.
Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Now let's look at the right front. Left front first. Who saw anything different between the 2 feet, or what did you folks see?
I thought he landed on the outside of the foot.
On which one?
On
On the left, that's correct. So I balanced his foot last week, and when we walked him, this is what we found, exactly what you just said. We have the left front is landing on the lateral side, on the outside first, and then when he finishes, he loads that foot, he comes right back down. However, that foot in static, i.e. when I pick up his hoof, is actually balanced here, but it's not balanced when he's moving. So I will adjust him after today to make him land flat. The right front is actually balanced statically and in motion. So that's what we're aiming for. Again, because of conformation, we can't always have both. And we have to decide which one's most important, and it all depends on what the horse is doing, what the hoof looks like, what his conformation is. Let's spin him around. They can face them, please. Thank you. So now we're going to look at the hind feet. But before we do that, we have different tools we can use. This is a T-square that we can use on the front limbs. This T-square is fairly simple to use. We have a bevel back here. We put that on top of the tendons, and I'll demonstrate in a second. And then we guide this towards the heels. What we're going to look at is we're going to come from the top. It's got a little notch in the front here that's going to go right in the center of the frog. And as we're approaching the heels, we're going to look down and see if we have one heel lower or higher than the other one. And that's by looking at this flat surface. One heel will be forward and one will be backwards. Now, if we pick up a foot, and there's a few little tricks that we're gonna show you on him. Things that I look at is I look at the frog. Where is the frog facing? Is the frog in the center, or is the frog twisting one way or the other? Also, I'm looking at the heels. Is one heel more forward than the other one or not? And we'll go over that on the hind leg because it'll be easier for you folks to see. So this tool here, the T-square, again, fairly simple. We pick up the limb. These are the tendons here, the flexor tendons. I'll square it up with the flexor tendons, lay it on it. They always have a notch right here in the center of the frog, so I'm gonna put the notch of the T-square right over that. And I'm gonna align it. I need to let the foot drop. And I come back in, and I start moving forward. And then once I hit the first heel, I look at the other one, see where the other one's at. And this horse is perfectly balanced right now on that leg, on that foot. Another one that we can use, because this one we cannot use on the hind limb, because when we pick up their hind limb, it is flexed. So there's no way we can use this issue. The other one that we can use, this is a local furrier, matter of fact. Danny Finnegan came up with this, called the Finnegan gauge. This is the gauge that not only gives us the angle of the foot, of the hoof itself, it also helps us determine balance. And the way we do it is we grab this instrument here, we set it up on the foot itself, we make sure it's centered with the frog right here, we make sure we have everything nice and tight, and we grab a pencil. They use an actual white chalk, but I don't have it, so I'm going to use this pencil, and it's got a groove in the center. It's got a groove in the center, and we get the pencil and we mark that area. Turn them around. And then you can see there's a line on that hoof right here in the center. What we're looking at then, we stand in front of the horse and we look at that line. If the line is facing, which I'm going to show you in the hinds, if it's going this way, that means this side is high. If the line is going this way, that means this side is high. So we'll adjust based on that. Again, you still have to have some degree of proprioception, knowing what you're looking at. But this is the other tool that we have. Yeah, that one works in the rear. I'm going to do it in the rear because it's more dramatic. The other way people will, well, we'll go for the hinds in a second. But let's look at the hind limbs. Another thing we're going to look at is the coronary band. And you can see it on both sides because the both hind feet are the same. If you're in the front of the horse, we'll turn around a little bit so everyone can see. I want you to look at the coronary band. Look at the coronary band here, and then look down and see how much distance there is between the coronary band and the ground on that hoof. So if we look at him, I'll get a volunteer here. So look at this hoof, tell me where he's at. Look at the coronary band. That's pretty distorted. Yeah. So he's high on the inside. If you look here, he's got a lot more hoof wall here. When we look at the coronary band is actually crooked side. So he's putting more pressure on that side, so he's coming up. So some people believe when looking at the coronary band, and some don't. I am a true believer of the coronary band. If I have a lot of distortion on the coronary band, that means that I have uneven pressure on that hoof at any level, wherever that is. They should be nice and even. If not, I have some other type of issue internally in the hoof that's causing that, whether it's side bone, arthritis, or ring bone, and things like that. So those are things to keep in mind. It may not be the failure, it may not be that it's not balanced, it may be that there's something going on within the hoof capsule that we need to address.
What if the hoof is flat?
Yeah, so that's why they use a chalk that's white to mark it if you have this. Well, I'll mark this then here. So if we look closely, this is actually facing towards the inside, or the medial side is what we call it. So let's flip them around. So again, we're looking at it as them walking. All right. First things first, some of you might have to move this way so we can all see. Unfortunately, I'm creating shade. So we can measure from the coronary band to the side of the hoof wall and get a measurement and know where we are in relationship to the other side. Then we do the opposite on the other side. The same thing on the opposite side. We look at those measurements. Those will work sometimes, not all the time. The reason being, it depends on where it's actually creating contact with the foot. So this horse has a big flare on this side, on the inside. So obviously that's going to be taller. That doesn't mean that that is actually the taller side, because it could have a flare that's flatter and then give you a longer hoof wall, longer measurement, but it's not the case. So x-rays is what's going to be the final decision as to whether that hoof is finally balanced or not. You take an x-ray front to back and you'll see that the hoof is balanced or not. That's what I call it, literally in black and white. Because we have calipers also and we can measure that. So there's no arguing with the farrier at that point. So I don't argue with them anymore. I take the x-ray and I show them the x-ray, literally in black and white. So then the whole, no, but you're looking with this eye or that eye, that goes out the door. Your right hand, right? Your right dominant right eye and blah, blah, blah. They have excuses. But anyway, we have answers. So.
The right answer.
That's right. So if we look, something I mentioned earlier is a perfect example. Again, the reason we left them long is for you folks to see. If we look at this horse, where is the frog facing? It's going towards the inside, which is the high side. The inside. Hang on, buddy. So the frog, if you leave it long enough, unbalanced long enough, the frog will start facing the high side. So before I may be standing over there and say, oh, he's high on the inside. Just by picking up the foot without actually looking down his hoof and trying to evaluate it that way. There's another hint here, just from standing where you are, that I'm just gonna clean this a little bit. Hang on, son. Go ahead, this way. There's another tip here. Tools of information. Some farriers don't even know this, which is interesting, but now you do. And it is, I want you to look at the actual heel, that this heel ends right here and this heel ends right here. See that discrepancy? Mm-hmm. So the heel that's further forward is the high side. So again, we have the frog telling us this way. We have the heels telling us this way it's high. So we already know. We look at the coronary band, tells us that way it's high. Everything's adding up to that. This side is high. So all we have to do at that point is then lower that heel and make it match. I usually clean the frog at that point so we can really see. But then as I keep going down, the heel will keep coming inward. And then if I clean this frog, I won't. But if I clean this frog, everything's gonna start coming together. Okay? So I'll clean this edge of the frog and bring the heel, and the whole foot will be balanced.
Can you do that in one trim, or is that a...
You can. Okay. It depends on how, very good question, it depends on how extensive and how long it's been like that. So on this horse, yes, I can.
If a farrier cleans the frog first, then you really can't tell what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, he looks at it while he's cleaning it.
Yeah.
He gets the, yeah. You as the owner,
As
you
the
may,
owner
you know, we
should
start cleaning in
look
there and then.
before they, you know.
Yeah, and they
Plus,
will
when
know,
they get there.
and you will get this in 6, 8, 10 weeks. You will get a shifting. If it's shifted sideways and they cleaned it already, and you see in a week the thing's sideways, then maybe we need to start paying attention. Well, that's where you get your vet involved.
What's the long-term effect if it isn't corrected?
If it isn't correct, excellent question, and you can keep asking questions. So what's the long-term effect if we do not correct the balance of the hoof? On this particular hoof, it will develop a crack. Probably develop a crack on this side, actually, on the outside. It will develop a hoof crack here. Usually it starts on the very top. When I see cracks that start at the top of the hoof instead of the bottom of the hoof, we know we have a pressure problem and an imbalance problem. So most of the time, that's where it will start.
I know of a horse that it has like twice as,
Uh-huh.
not twice as much, but almost twice as much hoof on one side.
Uh-huh.
And the frog is like that. And he's pigeon-toed and the hoof grows
Correct.
out more on that side, so it
Correct.
comes out.
So the question is a pigeon-toed horse that then ends up with a pretty unbalanced hoof. That will happen. Again, conformation it's the key on that one. And that is why we have to look at the whole horse, not just the hoof. These are just pointers. Thank you, Scott. These are just pointers. These are just pointers that we're looking at to kind of gauge where we are, especially if we're doing our own training and things like that.
Now I have a mare at home that was pigeon-toed when I got her. She was
Yeah.
and not bad, but a little
Yeah.
bit toed in. And the farrier tried to straighten her out.
Okay.
And as a result, she has two of the most horrendous looking splits. And I think that's because she was loading on the inside. Could that happen?
It can happen. So there's a trick, if you want to call it that some people will try with these horses that are pigeon-toed coming in or the other way around, toed out. And it's by allowing the hoof hole, which she also brought up, on one side or the other longer to straighten the horse. Don't try to straighten what's crooked. It will be crooked all its life. Don't try to fix it. Just maintain it and control it. So when they bring me a pigeon-toed horse at 10 years old, Doc, can you fix this? No. We can balance him to his conformation, but I can't fix it. And if we try to fix it, what they do is they say it's pigeon-toed, toed out, they'll lift this heel up and they'll lower the inside heel and let the outside heel come up to straighten the leg.
But they still land on that outside, right?
Correct.
Or the inside. And then I
Correct.
think that's why she ended up loading on the inside all the time, and the foot went
Right.
up and gave her the splints.
Correct. The cracks.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's uneven loading. Correct. In that case, she may need shoes. Does she have shoes?
Oh, she got a new shoer and new shoes because
Okay.
without shoes she can't
So
walk.
that's the other thing. If we start putting shoes, excuse me, buddy. Thank you. If we start putting shoes on these horses, remember we're locking that horse to that trim that you just completed. If the horse is barefoot, we can chill a little bit and not be as exact because a horse will wear that foot however he wants. But once you put a shoe, which I'm an advocate for shoes, or barefoot, it depends on the horse. So there's a lot of ways you can fix a horse with shoes, and other ways you can fix a horse without shoes. Some horses have to have shoes, some horses don't need shoes at this point here, for what they do. Depends on what they do, depends on many things. So again, balance, both static, I'll be right with you, static and in motion. We want to look at them both. The reason we want a horse that lands flat is because I want the hoof to usually comes heel first. He'll stretch out heel and then the rest of it will land. Racehorse is the opposite. If you look at a racehorse, they have a huge toe, which drives me nuts, but it is what it is. Huge toe and no heel. Why do we breed these thoroughbreds like that? Because we want them to reach as far forward as they can. The longer that foot is on the ground, the more propulsion they're gonna get. So we're gonna grab the toe, we're gonna cut the heel off, and we'll grab real far. Just like when we're swimming. We're swimming like this, we're moving. If we're swimming like this, we're not moving as much. So it's the same thing. So all those things, again, balance, it's a big deal. And the last thing on balance, and then I'll take all of your questions.
He's done.
One more time. Give me 2 seconds.
He seems to be landing toe first.
I was just gonna say, they don't
Do you have a list of farriers that you recommend? Because we're just back here talking and
Yes,
I
and they're very
can't
busy.
find- Yeah, I can't, I literally can't. I've got one coming all the way from Mariposa right now
Yeah.
because I cannot find a farrier here.
We'll talk. The other thing we'll look at finally, the last thing, it's we've all talked about side to side balance or medial to lateral balance. Hang on, buddy. But the other thing we need to pay attention to is the toe, because somebody brought it up a second ago. He's landing on the toe versus the heel. So we get a ruler, we get to the widest part of the foot, and we draw a line. I had a Sharpie at some point, but anyway, we draw a line right there, and then we come and do the opposite. We come to the center where it's the longest, and we draw another line. We want the hoof to be almost 50-50. Some people will say it'll be 60 in the front and 40 on the back. I'm okay with that. I like 50-50 better. But it depends on the horse, depends on conformation. I can't get a thoroughbred 50-50 if it's barefoot. There's no way. And even with the shoe, I just set the shoe back and give them 50-50 based on breakover. If the toe is too long, they're going to overstrain the extensor tendons here. They're also going to put too much pressure on the navicular bone. So there's a lot of things, again, that we can get into, but balance, static, emotion, and then also front to back, not just side to side. All right, that's it. Questions?